I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Friday, March the 15th, brought to you in part by the Witex Corporation. Since 1967, Witex has provided excellence in animal health, including but not limited to all-American ID tags for all classes of livestock. For more information, go to y-tex.com. Packers break the board. And you think, well, that's a pretty bold statement there, but everybody knows what happened. And we talked about it at the end of our last visit. The board had been friendly pretty much all week. We're extremely tight on market-ready supplies. And even the town drunk knew that fat cattle were going to be higher on towards the end of the week, whenever we always have our trade, which is at the end of the week. And I said, unless for some reason that they break the board and the Packers break the board. That's what happened. We all know that's what happened. I was talking with one of my commodity broker friends and said, did the Packers break the board? They said, of course. And I said, well, isn't there some kind of rules against that? And they said, well, yeah, but how do you prove it? Well, you can't prove that they didn't either. But these all your big packers have really close ties to fund management companies. That's the ones that come in and break the board here in instances like this, and we see it happen time and time and time again, and it's not right. And we've seen the Biden administration come in and say that they're going to crack down on stuff like this. They want to make the P&S regulations more stringent, and they want to start enforcing those rules and things like that. Well, hello, Mr. Magoo. Your Packers are coming in here and jacking with the board. Every time we see an opportunity for fat cattle to get higher, they don't buy hoof until extremely late in the week, and then they break the board hoping that they won't have to give more for cattle. It happens every time. And you know, is anybody going to do anything about it? No, probably not. Fact is the Magoo administration wants to blame the Packers for the food inflation. It's not all their fault. You know, inflation comes about whenever you insert trillions of dollars into your monetary supply there, and you don't back it up with anything. It waters down the dollars that were out there before, and they don't go as far. And that's natural, you know, inflation. And then you have to keep raising interest rates to try to kill the economy to get the inflation under control. That's what we've been seeing here for the last 3 years plus. And we've got to get rid of it. But, you know, we knew that cattle were going to get high anyway, and cattle have gotten to, they're right at the cusp of all-time record highs for every class, pretty much. And we knew that was going to happen anyway, because we got the smallest, or the fewest number of cows that we've had in nearly 75 years. And they just, every time we get this 8 to 10 year cycle, our supply cycle coming around, we're just a little bit tighter than we were before. And why is the reason for that? Because land continues to get more expensive, and you can't afford to keep it just running cows on it. We've got urban sprawl that keeps taking it out. We've seen over the last 30 years, we've seen a lot more of the land being plowed up whenever we see grain prices get high, and then whenever grain prices get low right now, like now, they're crying about it. We see a lot of ranchers and places that are scenic. We see those owners of those ranches finding it more economical to pin up wildlife in the pastures rather than cattle, and then charge town people to come out and itch their craving by charging them big money to shoot the wildlife. And that's something that's happening. And then we also see conservation money coming in and taking you know, pasture land and ranch land out of production. There's just fewer places to have them all the time, guys. and it's really come to a head here during this point in the cycle. And it's gotten to the point now where we're thinking that beef is going to become a luxury item that a lot of people can't afford to have on their plate, and that's what's really scary. But here at DVAuction, we added 2 new commercial sale barns this week: Kingsville Livestock Auction in Kingsville, Missouri, and the Intermountain Livestock in La Grande, Oregon is now broadcast on DVAuction. We're going to be adding several more coming up here quick. We got Kirksville, Missouri online. Going to be hooking them up here before long, and then we'll give you guys the heads up when we get new ones coming up for that. But we've seen an outpouring of support for the victims of the fires in the Texas Panhandle. Unbelievable how we always see sale barn markets being the cornerstone of the community and the outreach whenever it comes time to do that. But we've just seen numerous sale barns have rollover sales and fundraisers to help raise money for these victims of the fire. You know, and just a few of the sale barns that I've heard of. St. Ann, South Dakota raised over $20,000 in a rollover sale that they had. El Campo, Texas, way down south there, they raised over $26,000 in a rollover sale there. Joplin Regional Stockyard raises over $31,000. They've all been doing events and selling T-shirts and different things and putting being a drop-off spot to put hay and fencing supplies and feed together to send to them. It's just been a great thing to see for such a horrible thing that happened there. But let's talk about your board for Thursday. April live cattle futures down 297 at 186.95. June was down 267 at 183.37. Your back months were all down from $1.85 to down 227. March feeder cattle down 280. Now they were down more than this earlier in the session, but then came back a little bit right before the close. But still stiff losses on all your cattle contracts. But March feeder cattle down 280 at 247.47. April down 467 at 251.17. Do you still think those LRP premiums are big when you see you lose almost $5 in one day's trading there of what you could have dallied your cattle up to? Your back months were down big from 372 to 430 lower. Let's talk about your grains. March corn was down 4 cents at 422.5. March beans down 1 with very little trading in it at 11.80 3/4. And Kansas City hard red winter wheat for May down 12 3/4 at 574 3/4 cents a bushel. Fat cattle trade, we did see trade, and it was still higher despite breaking the board off. It was still higher because we are so short on market ready cattle, and the packers have cut the chain speeds down to nothing nearly, but the market was still higher because of sheer numbers. Iowa sold 6,600 before the 2 o'clock cutoff to report information to USDA. Live prices from 187 to 190. That's $2 to $4 higher, guys. Nebraska 600 head, a lot more trade after the 2 o'clock deadline, but when the market's this much higher and they're fighting so hard to keep it down, they're a little lackadaisical in getting that information put into mandatory price reporting, so we don't really know what's going on until the complete end of the week. But we did see some prices quoted out of Nebraska live at 187. I heard there was a lot of 188 later in the afternoon or even around noontime there that didn't get reported and should have on a live basis in Nebraska. Dress sales in Nebraska from 294 all the way up to 301 dressed. How about Kansas? Only 200 head and only at 185. That would have just been steady with last week. I'm not sure if we saw much more trade in the Southern Plains. I doubt there would be a whole lot more trade in the Southern Plains if it's just 185. I'm thinking they would take at least 186, and they're probably priced at 188. But I heard some live prices in the northern plains as high as 191 to regionals. There's just not very many fat cattle out there that are ready, and the packers are going to have to pay for them. They can break the board, they can crank down the chain speeds, they can do whatever they want to do to try to stop this market. But when you just don't have any numbers, some fundamental supply and demand take over. How about box beef cutout values? Choice cuts up 96 cents at 310.78. Selects up 65 at 301.69, which doesn't sound very high whenever they're selling dressed cattle at 301. But your slaughter, how about 473,000 through the first 4 days of the week? 11,000 less than a slow week last week. 25,000 less than the same week a year ago. They are just dialing it back big time, guys. Your actual slaughter information for the week ending March the 2nd come in. They adjusted it down another 5,000 from what they had estimated. They can continue to do that. Our average dressed steer carcass weight, 919 pounds. That's 5 pounds bigger than the previous report, as they continue to recover from the cold snap and getting that weight back. And now we're getting monster carcasses again, and that's going to continue even though we have tight numbers. We have some ready, and then they pull the slaughter back, and then we're going to have cattle that get too big. Coming to you from actually Reno, Nevada. Got done at the Houston Stock Show. My daughter drowned it in the Dead Sea, if you guys know what that means, but didn't do much better than any other time at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. But that was the swan song for us and the junior stock shows. We may have some horse events left to do before she graduates, but we're done with the livestock shows. But couldn't resist catching a late flight to come out here to help my friends at Nevada Livestock Marketing on Friday here. They've got 4,500 head, and you think the numbers are tight, guys. There's cattle here in Fallon, Nevada, and they're ripe for the plucking. You can get on to DVAuction.com and you can get them bought, guys. And the cattle are high altitude desert cattle, and there's nothing any better than that if you're looking for health and condition. They've got 11 loads of yearlings weighing from 7 to 950 we're going to sell here on Friday in Fallon, Nevada. 500 head of peewee calves, hard as rocks, long time weaned and still really light, guys. I got one consignment of over 1,000 head of lighter grazing yearlings in premium health and quality. And then there'll be a lot of middleweight cattle there in smaller groups that you can put together. But get on to DVAuction.com at Nevada Livestock Marketing. Check out the sale. Call in, get approved, bid on the cattle. As high as these cattle are, the freight doesn't make as much difference as it did when they were cheaper, guys. Let's talk about your board on Thursday late. Real-time index, I say your board, let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DV auction late in the day on Thursday closed at 251.80 after Thursday's trade. That was up another 60 cents. But we saw some of your high volume sales kind of pulling back on your feeder weights with the board down as hard as it was. But your latest CME cash feeder cattle index, 248.46. Talk about DV auction, guys. We're right in the middle of bull sale season, and we've got a ton of big sales this weekend. Go on to DVAuction.com, find what kind of bulls you're looking for, get on those sales and bid on them. Your big feeder cattle auctions on Thursday. How about winter livestock in Pratt, Kansas at 4,800 head. Kansas market reporters called the market unevenly steady, from 3 lower to 3 higher, but then every week they continue to say that the reputation cattle just get dollars and dollars higher, and I don't know how much of a premium the reputation cattle are by now. Must be $30 to $50 higher than just the regular cattle. But how about a stick out sale in Pratt? 77 steers weighed 684 at 303.75. My goodness. How about farmers and ranchers livestock straight north of there in north central Kansas, 4,500 head for them. Heavy feeders were some lower, like I mentioned earlier when I talked about your real-time index, but your middleweight cattle continue higher. 5 to 800 pound cattle continue higher. Farmers and ranchers in Salina was your NationalBeefWire stick-out sale of the day. Look at this automated market report through Cattle Market Central, and you see 351 head of 6-weight steers in Salina, average 648 at 291.06. 385 head of 7-weight steers, average 757 at 260.67. There were 1,150 head of 8-weight steers in Salina, Kansas on Thursday. They averaged 853 pounds with a weighted average price of $242.81. And 316 head of 9-weight steers averaged 929 at $230.247. Look at some heifers. 290 head of 6-weight heifers averaged 637 at $257.09. And 299 head of 7-weight heifers averaged 751 at $233.77. They had 428 head of 8-weight heifers at Farmers and Ranchers Livestock in Salina, Kansas. They had a weighted average weight of 829, weighted average price of $222.51. Give you some individual quotes. How about Woodward Livestock Auction, Western Oklahoma? There 78 steers weighed 526 at $342. Ogallala Livestock Auction sold 83 steers weighed 665. It's getting close to 700 pounds, guys, at $316. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Thursday in your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day, come out of Stockman's Livestock Exchange in Dickinson, North Dakota at the East Barn. They sell 72 steers weighed 803 at $265.75 way up in North Dakota, guys. And that's your feeder flash for Friday.